everybody, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead DeFries, and this is the daily show where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us is your editor-in-chief for AMC Movie News, John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the show, coming to you from right here at the AMC Movie News headquarters here in Burbank, California. And apparently, Sinead, Mark, and I are auditioning for a new version of West Side Story.
That's right. Also here is AMC's Alicia Malone.
I forgot my leather jacket, guys. You didn't give me the memo. I do have one, but no, now I'm sleeveless and feeling like a fool.
And also AMC's Mark Ellis.
Remember, kids, if your fashion sense is 25 years late, you're really 5 years ahead of the curve.
All right, so as many of you will remember, Chronicle and new Fantastic Four director Josh Trank was attached to direct the second Star Wars spin-off film scheduled for 2018. But he recently announced that he has left the project. Many people have speculated on the reasons why he left, but now in a new interview with the LA Times, Trank reasserts that he simply left to make smaller projects. Trank said the following: "I knew that this was going to be questioned and it was going to come under skepticism as to why I left Star Wars. And it was hard. It was the hardest decision I have ever had to make in my life. I want to do something original after this because I've been living under public scrutiny, as you've seen, for the last 4 years of my life. And it's not healthy for me right now in my life. I want to do something that's below the radar." John, what do you make of Trank's comments?
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, right off the bat, when it was announced that he left, I was one of those guys, because the statement came out, yeah, I'm leaving to pursue other things. I was like, malarkey. Loads of malarkey. A quarter to you if you hear anybody else today use that word.
I've never heard that before.
And I was like, no, something else is going on, But I read these comments and what he's saying, and I really think about them, and I'm going to tell you what, I've changed my mind. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on this. When you really stop to think, this was a no-name guy who did this small budget little film with Chronicle. All of a sudden, he's a name. He enters into Fantastic Four, and look at the circus that has surrounded Fantastic Four. Like, so much hate for the film just to start with, because the other ones have sucked, granted, and all that kind of stuff. And then, every detail that's come out, everybody has just dogpiled on, which is the right of movie fans to do. And, then all these, as it turns out, false reports of him trashing hotels and blah, blah, and the stress that must put on you. And now he's already accepted, doing Star Wars, and he's looking around like, it's going to be Fantastic Four times 20. And you know what? If he just then decides, you know what? I loved making Chronicle. I want to go back to doing stuff like that right now. I got to tell you, I might be way off base, but at this point now, I've changed my mind. I actually believe him at this point. Alicia, you read these comments. What did you think?
Yeah, I completely respect him for this decision. It must have been really tough. Like you said, he is a huge Star Wars fan. This must have been a dream project for him. But I think it must be tough for directors on these big projects, like we saw with Edgar Wright, that you don't get much of a chance to have your own spin on things, because it's very much dictated by where the franchise needs to go, and it's a bigger thing than just the director. So I think it can be an internal struggle for people like Trank, who come from a smaller indie world, that they want to do something that they can put their mark on it, but at the same time they know they're holding themselves up to very public scrutiny, and people will trash them if it doesn't go well. I'm looking forward to seeing Fantastic Four. I hope it's good. I hope it redeems the series. And I want to see what Trank does next, what smaller film or original project he does next.
Yeah, and it should be pointed out, too, that also in the interview, he was also mentioning that actually, you know what, he's still pretty tight with Kathleen Kennedy and the people at Lucasfilm, too. So that's got to be figured into it. Anyway, Mark, you read the comments. What did you think?
Well, let's be honest. We're never going to know exactly what went down between Trank and the Jedi Council that is Kathleen Kennedy and everybody else over at Star Wars, because, yes, he left the project. Now, look, I've left parties before. Sometimes I've been asked to leave. Sometimes I've left of my own volition. Either way, I technically left the party to go to a smaller party. So whether this was all his decision or
that's
all
his way
the
of
Star
saying
Wars decision,
girlfriends have dumped him and he left to be single again. That's another way of
that
saying
smaller
it.
party is my apartment or jail. It depends on what night it is.
Shame.
Either way with this guy, I think that you mentioned circus with Fantastic Four. I think Star Wars wanted nothing to do with a circus like that, with all the other stuff surrounding it. Whether it was true, whether it was just false reports, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you keep having this stuff come up, I don't think that they were thrilled about all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes. But with Trank, with these comments, I think it's great, even if it's just a face-saving measure, or it's true, if this is the kind of movies that he wants to make, smaller indie films, and they end up like Chronicle, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Laurence Fishburne, best known for playing Morpheus in the Matrix films, is set to direct the upcoming film The Alchemist and has now landed his leading man. According to Deadline, Idris Elba is now in talks to star in the film for Fishbone and the Weinstein Company. Based on the novel of the same name, The Alchemist is the magical story of Santiago, a shepherd boy who yearns to travel in search of a worldly treasure as extravagant as any ever found. From his home in Spain, he journeys to the markets of Tangiers and across the Egyptian desert to a fateful encounter with the alchemist. Alicia, do you buy or sell the sounds of The Alchemist and the possible addition of Idris Elba?
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so in. I mean, we've spoken before about how Idris is such a great actor and he's someone you want to see do more and be a lead role in something great. And The Alchemist is one of these books where everyone talks about it changing your life. And it's something that everyone should read. And it does make you think about bigger pictures and about the universe and about your purpose in life. And when I read the book, I felt like it was very cinematic. And I'm sure it's been a project that, I mean, it must have been in the works for a long time because it just seems like an obvious movie. It's
I
a
think he had the
best-selling
rights.
novel.
I think Fishburne had the rights since like 2008.
Yeah, because it is one of these bestsellers and just it would really attract an audience. So I can't wait. And I want to see what Laurence Fishburne does with the film.
Mark?
Yeah, Laurence Fishburne takes his art seriously, whether he's acting in The Matrix or he's just playing a guy from The Matrix in a Lexus commercial. The guy takes his stuff really seriously. And when I heard about The Alchemist, obviously I didn't read it, but the tale of this allegorical thing of this guy going on a personal legend, and your personal legend is something that if you want it bad enough, the universe will make sure it's going to come true, whether you want to be a popular movie personality or get to second base with a girl. It can happen to you. I can't wait to see this movie, especially with somebody like Idris Elba in that role. It's going to be great. Who are they going to cast as the boy who's going on the journey is my question. That's going to be very interesting.
I think, well, first of all, let's be fair. I know we said best known for being in The Matrix, but obviously, you know, Fishburne is best known for the season and a half he spent on CSI as the new director, right? I don't even know if he was there for a whole season or not. This sounds fascinating to me. And Idris is the type of guy, you're right. Alicia, we've been talking for a long time. We need to see him leading more vehicles and see what he can do. This is the type of story that I believe he can really shine. It's going to come down. Now, not Idris, but rather Laurence Fishburne did direct one other thing that I did not see. And so that's a little bit of a question mark for me. You know, this isn't the case of a studio has this movie and they think Laurence Fishburne's the guy to do it. Laurence Fishburne got the rights to this movie.
Passion project.
It's his passion project, so he's going to direct it. That's a big question mark. I don't know if he's going to be any good or not, but I'm really curious to see how he does. All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Sinead's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down, and then those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Sinead, what do we got?
A brand new trailer for Joseph-Gordon Levitt's new film, The Walk, has hit the web. 12 people have walked on the moon, but only one man has ever or will ever walk in the immense void between the World Trade Center towers. Guided by his real-life mentor, Papa Rudy, and aided by an unlikely band of international recruits, Pettit and his gang overcome long odds, betrayals, dissension, and countless close calls to conceive and execute their mad plan. The Walk opens in AMC theaters on October 2nd. Mark, do you buy or sell this new trailer for The Walk?
Huge buy for me. And as a guy who is terrified of heights, I know you guys think I'm fearless. I am so scared of heights. To see this thing in IMAX 3D with a director like Robert Zemeckis, that's the biggest reason why I'm buying this. Joseph-Gordon Levitt, he still has the Bruce Willis makeup on from Looper, which is fine. Seeing the trailer, the only reservation I had is look, kids, in the lineage of French accents in film, it goes from somebody like Gerard Depardieu to Kevin Kline in French Kiss. Now, Joseph-Gordon Levitt's accent doesn't quite sound like that, but I'm not sold on it yet. Once I'm there in the movie, I'm sure it'll be fine. But watching this film, it looks so suspenseful, such an interesting tale. And again, one of the great directors that's working right now doing it, I'm all in.
I have to echo your sentiments. Huge buy for me. I loved this trailer. And I'm one of those guys who went, when they first said, they're going to make him, like, we had the documentary Man on Wire, which was brilliant. But then we're going to make a motion picture about that. Really going to build a whole movie around that? That's out the window. This looks fantastic. And what I really loved about the trailer is I'm a sucker for heist films. And this trailer suddenly gives this movie the feel of a heist film, except instead of trying to break into a bank, they're trying to get, you know, subversively some wire across these two things when nobody's looking and security's off and building this thing. And I'm now fascinated by that part of the movie as much as I am about the thing of him walking across. And when we were watching the trailer and he starts walking across that, all I could think to myself is, to see this in IMAX will be breathtaking. And you're right. Joseph-Gordon Levitt, about 3 shades north of Pepe Le Pew, a little bit, not quite, quite that bad, but he's above that, above that, not the greatest thing, but who knows, maybe seeing it in context and once the movie gets flowing and you get used to it, maybe it'll feel natural. It just didn't feel so natural for
I'm
me.
glad he's not playing Gambit, I'll say that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alicia?
Huge buy, and just thinking about it makes my palms sweat. I'm such a wuss when it comes to heights. I can't handle any
That's
of it.
3 of us. That's all 3 of us here. Seriously.
And watching this, even watching the trailer on a small little computer screen, it still gave me chills. It looks like it's incredibly directed by Robert Zemeckis, who's shown that he's so good with the special effects kind of things. I loved Man on Wire, and Philippe Petit has such a strong French accent. It must be tough to do. But I was exactly going to say what you said, that it looks like a 70s heist film.
Yeah.
And that makes it so much fun. I can't wait to see it, even though I'll never understand adrenaline junkies who want to do this kind of stuff. I can't get it, but I can't wait to see it.
All right, what's next?
The first poster for the new Steven Spielberg Tom Hanks film, Bridge of Spies, has just hit the web. Set against the backdrop of a series of historic events, Bridge of Spies tells the story of James Donovan, played by Hanks, a Brooklyn lawyer who finds himself thrust into the center of the Cold War when the CIA sends him on a near impossible task to negotiate the release of a captured American U-2 pilot. Bridge of Spies hits AMC theaters on October 16th. John, do you buy or sell this poster for Bridge of Spies?
Now, we should say that, as happens quite often, the show started to roll, and a trailer for this movie has now dropped. So that will probably, unfortunately, have to wait until Monday.
Hang on.
Yeah,
All right.
that's how it's going to have to wait till Monday. But so let's talk about this. Let's see. Film directed by Steven Spielberg, who in my opinion is probably the greatest filmmaker of all time, being led by Tom Hanks, who is in the argument for amongst the greatest actors of all time, on a screenplay written by the Coen brothers. This is a no-brainer, and I love the poster. I think that's a great poster. I don't know anything about the movie whatsoever, but this looks terrific. I've been salivating for this movie since I first heard about it. I'm all on board for it. For me, it's a big buy, Mark.
Yeah, Spielberg and Hanks together. Of course, I want to see that movie. Looking at that poster, it looks like something that our man Ray photoshopped, which is a credit to how good the poster is. Because look, it's everything that you want to see. You want to see these two conflicting flags in the midst of the Cold War. Tom Hanks, who is so good at playing a guy thrust into an awkward situation, whether it was Captain Phillips or Castaway or anything else he's been at Splash, anything else that he's been in. This is such a big buy for me. The poster didn't have to knock my socks off. It just gave me a little hint as to what the story is. I love when a poster does that. I'm in.
You're just kissing up to Ray because you left the office with his keys yesterday.
That was Christian. That was not me, but I brought the keys back.
Yeah, so you're the
Alicia,
hero. You brought the keys
I'm the key
back.
master.
Oh, okay. You saved the day.
I buy this, even though it is just a floating head with some flags, but it's Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks's head looks amazing, and I will follow Tom Hanks in whatever he does. He's so likable. He's so great at playing the hero. Plus, like you said, you see a Steven Spielberg film. It's about war, which they do so well together, and then the Coen brothers. It's got everything, every element. It's like all the Oscars, just give it to it now.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to get it.
All right, what's next?
The trailer for the upcoming Margot Robbie, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Chris Pine film Z for Zachariah has hit the web. Z for Zachariah takes place in the wake of a nuclear war, following a young woman, played by Robbie, who survives by herself. Fearing she may actually be the proverbial last woman on Earth, she then discovers the most astonishing sight of her life, another human being, played by Ejiofor. A distraught scientist, he's nearly been driven mad by radiation exposure and his desperate search for others. A fragile, imperative strand of trust connects them, but when a stranger, played by Pine, enters the valley, their precarious bond begins to unravel. Alicia, do you buy or sell this new trailer for Z for Zachariah?
Well, this is tricky because I buy the trailer because the trailer makes you excited for the film, but I also sell it because it is not actually what the film's like, because I saw the film. At Sundance.
Oh, I
Whoa.
forgot that you saw the film.
So
Okay.
you watch the trailer and you think it's a post-apocalyptic thriller, kind of like The Road maybe, and you watch the film and it's a very small self-contained relationship drama. It's just about a love triangle, and that's pretty much it. So for me, I already had the high expectations going into seeing this film that it would be about this huge world and what happened to the world and about survival in this post-apocalyptic world when you're the last people left, but instead it's about, which guy does she want, which guy's going to win the girl, and it's more about a relationship than post-apocalyptic.
You know, it's so funny that you say that and a little bit awkward because my comments after watching the trailer was, I buy the trailer because it when you read the synopsis about the world, you think it's going to be about a post-apocalyptic world, and it's really not. It feels like this is going to be a human love triangle story with 3 characters, and I think that's really rather interesting on that level. You've got Chiwetel Ejiofor in there, who I have been saying for 6-7 years is probably the most underrated performer. Finally started to get his dues last year with 12 Years a Slave. This guy is one of the best right now. He's just incredible. Margot Robbie's coming on strong. I like Chris Pine. This is going to be a very interesting film. I have not seen it like she has.
And I will say the cast is fantastic, and it's amazing when you get to the credits and there's only 3 names.
Oh, so it's really just 3 characters in the entire movie.
And Margot Robbie, this is her movie, and she does such a great job.
See, that made me more excited for it. That just made me more excited. Anyway, Mark, what about you?
Yeah, not only do I buy the trailer, I buy a future where I'm the only guy on Earth and I stumble into Margot Robbie. Are you kidding me? You talk about a personal legend like The Alchemist, and then to see another guy, and that guy happens to look like old Blue Eyes Chris Pine? What a C-block maneuver. God, that sounds terrible. This is so exciting to me. Like you brought up, I want to be a personal story. I don't want it to be another zombies are attacking us and now we got to all hunker down and have a love triangle together. I just want to see what that's like when there is nothing else around. It's a great challenge for the actors. They look up to the task. I'm in.
All right, what's next?
Mailbag.
Oh, my head's all over the place. Anyway, folks, we reached that part of the show for mailbag. Listen, if you got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, we try our best every week to get your questions on air, but we get thousands of questions every week and only time for a couple. So, Sinead, what's in the mailbag?
Jonathan writes, "Hey everyone, I was wondering if you guys could explain the difference between WB making DC-related movies and Disney with Marvel films. I was under the assumption that Disney doesn't actually make Marvel films, but I read all the time that Disney is directly in charge of how Marvel films are made. Is WB the same? Can you clear this up? Thanks and keep it going. I love the show."
There's a very distinct yet very subtle difference between the two situations. And the situations, and please guys, correct me where I'm wrong. Marvel owns, Disney owns Marvel Studios. Marvel Studios belongs to Disney. It is one of their things, much like Pixar is owned by Disney. And so you have a guy who's head of that division, the Marvel Filmmaking Studios, headed by Kevin Feige and all that kind of stuff. But they all answer and have to take direction from Disney at the same time. With Warner Brothers, with Warner Brothers with DC, there is no DC studio that, I'm drinking.
It's the leather. It's too tight.
My vanilla flavored root beer went down the wrong way. You get these. So what you have is DC is not a studio in and of itself. Warner Brothers, therefore, directly makes the films without another sub-company that does it, on their behalf, much like is the situation with Marvel and Disney. So therein lies the difference. Ultimately, Disney is in charge of Marvel films. Ultimately, Warner Brothers is in charge of DC films. And so they're the same on that level. The one difference is that Disney has a sub-company that they have called Marvel Studios that they just look after the Marvel pictures themselves, whereas Warner Brothers does not have the same thing for DC. And a lot of us think that maybe Warner Brothers should create a subdivision to just look after DC films with a Kevin Feige type character in charge. Anyway, have I missed anything on that? Do you guys want to add anything to that?
I think you summed it up pretty well. I think that basically you look at Kevin Tsuchihara and Kevin Feige basically serve the same purpose for DC and Marvel respectively, but Kevin Feige has a physical parking space at a lot that is Marvel Studios, whereas Kevin Tsuchihara parks at Warner Brothers is the way that I look at it. Marvel Brothers. There you go. There's our crossover, kids. Get ready. Infinity War with Batman.
Marvel Brothers.
Yeah, well, it does seem like Disney, even though they oversee Marvel Studios, I think Disney's been really great at staying out of everything. So they let Marvel do Marvel properly. They let Pixar do Pixar properly. They let Lucasfilms do Lucasfilms. So I think that's great. I was trying to think of an analogy with what we do. It's like, you oversee me doing AMC Indie Spotlight, but at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the content, whereas this is more like your WB DC. Does that work? Movie Talk?
Yeah, no, actually, that is a great example. So, I oversee all the shows, but, you're doing AMC Indie Spotlight, and, every once in a while, I come to me, hey, we're thinking about that. I'm like, yep, whatever Alicia says, just do what Alicia says.
And then I'm Image Comics, and I got some titles, nobody really reads them, but that's cool with me. I just hang out in the corner.
But, but with Disney, Disney is not like an absentee, apparent though. Like Bob Iger,
Yeah.
when it comes to the big critical decision, there was actually a big story that went around with the new Star Wars, where Kathleen Kennedy actually had the idea. Kathleen Kennedy, who's the head of Lucasfilm, had the idea of moving Star Wars actually into 2016, and Bob Iger, who is the chief over at Disney, said no. And so then that's
It's like
that.
what he says goes, but
Yes.
at the same time, he trusts the people
Exactly,
in
and
charge.
sometimes he has to make some of the bigger, larger decisions. Like Kevin Feige has to go and answer to him as well. But for the most part, we put you in charge of it. You go and run it, and I'll step in when I need to. Whereas Warner Brothers, they just directly control everything. It is a Warner Brothers production.
It's a really interesting thing. Like, actually, just from a business perspective, it's cool to study this stuff. There's a book called How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, and it tells the great tale of how the rights to Star Wars were acquired by Disney, and it gives you a little bit of insight into all this. So
One of the best nonfiction books I've read in years, by the way. If you haven't read it, we talk about it all the time on AMC Jedi
And
Council.
it's interesting, even for a non-Star Wars fan, I've been reading the book, and it's fascinating to look at the business side of things and how it changed the movie universe. It really did.
All right, what's next?
Andre writes, do you think we've reached the peak of special effects in film? With movies like Planet of the Apes, Gravity, and Interstellar looking so realistic, do you think special effects has room to grow? Or have we reached the limit of what effects can do?
I remember I was a producer and a client services director for a visual effects company a lot of years ago. And I remember, and we would go and watch The Phantom Menace 4 times a week. Like at lunchtime, we'd say staff meeting, and we would go over to the local theater and just watch it because the visual effects at the time were just mind-blowing. Jurassic Park was a few years before that. And I remember right around that time, we started having those conversations like, how much further can you go?
Yeah.
And then today now, we fast forward a few years, and today, once you see Planet of the Apes, which was brought up as an example, it's like, what is left to do in the world of visual effect? Now it's all about who is the best artist and who can execute it the best. But as far as what is possible with visual effects, we are pretty much almost at the summit. The only thing that I think is still that one horizon that they still got to get over is they have yet to be able to truly do human beings.
Yeah.
Because to this day, you put on a CG John Hamm and just a 5-second John Hamm clip that is animated in CG beside a real John Hamm doing it, everybody can tell the difference. They've yet to cross, but that to me, I think is the last barrier. After they break that barrier, there's nothing more you can do. There's nothing else that is, we would do that, but it's not possible with the technology we have today. That won't exist anymore. So I don't know, how do you guys see it, Alicia?
Yeah, well, that's the uncanny valley situation they talk about, where it's difficult to do a human, because if you're a human looking at a fake human, if something's not quite right, then it's really creepy. It has to be perfect. Otherwise, if something is slightly wrong, it just blows your mind, and you can't quite handle it. Whereas if it goes completely cartoonish, then you can. But I agree with you. It feels like we are getting to the point where it's like, what else can you do that's so good? But I think it will continue to be refined, because if you look at the difference between Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and that's only a matter of a couple of years, and it's light years ahead of how they were able to do the apes this time around. So it's kind of exciting and scary about what the future is. I can't wait to see it.
There's a reason why comic book films are king of the box office right now, is because finally you can take these images that are on the page and put them on the screen, and it looks realistic.
Yeah.
I think the next hurdle is to see how much the availability becomes for everybody, because not just these huge, you don't have to spend $200 million. If much like making a movie itself, like 20 years ago, you didn't have a phone in your camera. A kid can go make a movie now. Now a kid can make anything because everybody has the availability of being able to use a camera. So if you can take all these effects that look so great on screen and make them cheaper and more affordable, you can have smaller movies. Like I brought up Image Comics. I'd love to see a Shadowhawk movie, but I don't know that Image Comics would ever have the budget that a Marvel or DC would. So if you make it cheaper and less expensive to make these incredible images, that's the next step for me.
And the other thing that you take into consideration too with this whole question is the expectation level and the sophistication level of the audience has increased. So let's take a movie like San Andreas for a second, right? 5 years ago, that scene in the beginning of San Andreas when the girl's car goes over the ledge and starts to roll down the hill. 5 years ago, people would look at that, maybe 6 years ago, would look at that and go, wow, that looked really good. That must. But today, that was a very poorly done visual effects shot because it was so clearly animated, very unnatural kind of movement with the car. But so today, a lot of people in the audience that I saw it with went, like when they saw it 6 years ago, that doesn't happen. So you're
It's
right.
true.
The brushes are now being made that can do anything. It's about the sophistication now of the artists
Yeah.
and their techniques and how they use these
And then
tools.
there were people watching Mad Max Fury Road going, "Oh, that's so fake." It's like, no, actually, they did that.
Actually, that was
That
real. That's a
actually
real guy going back and forth. All right, folks, that'll do it for us for this installment of AMC Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video below, and you'll find a link to our podcast feed. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I want to thank, first of all, the people sitting at the table with me. Over here, the sleeveless Aussie, Miss Alicia Malone. Alicia, where can people find you
Do
online?
the guns. You can find me on social media at Alicia Malone and on AMC Rewind. There's a new episode today, and AMC Indie Spotlight, trying to do a good job for Amy Rose.
And, of course, over here, Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can people find you online?
Well, make sure you guys check out our Judas Priest cover band, Hellbent for Leather. I'll be at the Comedy Store this Saturday night, and tonight I'm going to see Jurassic World. So follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 5150Ellis. I'll be tweeting my emoji reaction as soon as the movie's done.
And, of course, our lovely host today, Miss Sinead DeFries. Sinead, where can people find you online?
I'm on all social media channels at Sinead DeFries and at thatsosinead.com.
Want to see some drama? Watch this. Chicago Blackhawks suck.
Oh, no.
Oh,
my God.
drama just started.
No donuts for anybody.
Drama just started.
Dennis, cut the cameras.
And of course, you guys can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, all just at John Campia. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is John Campia for AMC Movie News. And until next time, bye-bye.